Unconditional love means that we treat others how we would want to be treated, not how we deserve to be treated, but how we would want to be treated. Yet, so often we unconsciously place expectations, limits, or conditions, as you might call them, on how we love others or how we treat others, including ourselves. Welcome to Health, Harmony, and Happiness with Kathy. I'm your host, Kathy Stricker. I'm a state patrol wife, mama to 3 lively kiddos, a yoga teacher, certified NLP coach, and an energetic rhythms expert. As an energetic rhythms coach, I help action-taking women use their body's rhythms and the moon's cycle to optimize productivity and avoid burnout without letting their desire to remain in control alter their focus. And this podcast is all about doing just that and perhaps a bit more so that you can create your own path to health, harmony, and happiness. So come along with me and may this episode serve as a nudge to discover tools that could help you on your path towards more intentional living. Enjoy the show. Hey friends, welcome to episode 67 of Health, Harmony, and Happiness with Kathy. Boy, I tell you what, it is Valentine's Day today, and this is not the episode that I had planned on putting out this week. But this morning I sat down to do some reflection and actually some journaling on inner child work and just other stuff that I am working through. But what came out onto the paper was something much different than I expected. And perhaps it's exactly what I needed to also be reminded of today on this day of love. But it has given me definitely some food for thought, and really this just flowed out of me in my writing. So I hope that you find benefit in it as well, because I know it was very therapeutic for me. And so I hope that you can feel that love behind it and just feel the intention of what unconditional love is like and what we could consider it to be like. It's not always an easy thing, and I think it's not a topic that we think about all the time. But I want to invite you today to slow down for a moment and just absorb whatever it is coming out or coming through in this podcast. Before we get to my writing, though, and before we get to what I would like to share with you, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by my Self-Love is in the Air candlelight yoga class that is coming up next week. And this candlelight yoga class is going to be involving movement, meditation, and intention settings around pouring into yourself so that you can better pour into others. It's a small, intimate class, and it's just really a great evening when I hold these classes. It's a great evening to remember intention in your own life, to remember to listen in to your inner guidance and allow that to guide you. So if you're in the Knoxville area and you are listening to this podcast, you might consider signing up. There are still a few spots open, and I would love to have you in the class. Let's get to the show, though. Okay, so unconditional love means that we love without condition. It means to love without saying, I love you, but only when you fit inside this little box of expectations that I've created. Who or what in your life can you think of that you can say you love without those conditions, without relying on anything else, without putting them into a box? Who or what in your life can you say that you love unconditionally? It can be a tough thing because we are human. And when we get hurt by someone, or even when our things get ruined by maybe a pet or a child, a part of us still wants to have restitution. Even with an apology, ill feelings can sometimes still linger, right? And sometimes apologies don't even happen. And we forget to forgive and to love. Having unconditional love means we forgive and keep loving, even though we may have been hurt. It means we treat others how we would want to be treated, not how we deserve to be treated, but how we want to be treated. So even when you make a mistake in your own life, maybe you think you don't deserve something. Maybe you don't think you deserve someone's love in a certain way, or maybe you think they don't deserve your love in a certain way because they've hurt you. But unconditional love, my friends, is loving them how they would want to be loved. And the same goes for you. When you make a mistake, you still want to be loved. You still want to be held, and you still want to have that feeling of tenderness. And unconditional love means that we do that no matter what. When you make mistakes, don't you want someone to draw you in, wrap their arm or arms around you, hug you, and tell you it's okay or it's going to be okay, and that they still love you? I hope you do. Dogs often do this. They forgive you and love you no matter what. No matter if you scold them for chewing up your furniture or dragging the garbage all over the house, they still come to you and snuggle and cuddle with you. They still love you without words. You know who else does this? Jesus. He doesn't judge you for your mistakes. He instead calls you towards him and wants to hear what's troubling you so he can love you and so that you can feel his supernatural peace. But you know where we often fall short in this unconditional love? With ourselves. We forget to unconditionally love ourselves. Or maybe it's that we don't know how to unconditionally love ourselves. Believe it or not, that second one is likely the reason we don't actually unconditionally love ourselves. We don't know how. Remember what I said earlier in the show about what unconditional love is? It's loving something or someone without condition, without putting them into a box with expectations. And I don't know about you, but I have definitely realized over the years that my own expectations of myself are much, much higher than anyone else's of me. You're probably the same, and hopefully you can relate. Unconditional love towards yourself means forgiveness. It means turning towards yourself and offering tenderness and nurturing, physically, mentally, emotionally, and even energetically, even when you think you don't deserve it, even when you think you don't have the time or energy to offer that unconditional love to yourself. Unconditional self-love isn't selfish. It's not about being self-centered, but instead it's offering love to yourself so you can live without suffering. We are the ones who create the most suffering in our own lives because we unconsciously aren't loving ourselves unconditionally. This self-love thing, though, is trickier than it may sound or appear. It's not as simple as just deciding to love yourself and realizing that you haven't been loving yourself, then just starting to love yourself, right? I mean, it would be wonderful if it were really that simple, but it's not. It takes work, just like any relationship takes work. You have to cultivate that relationship with yourself, and that's what self-love is. It's cultivating a relationship with yourself, not the superficial stuff, not the, doing things that care for yourself. Like, those things are good, and they are a way of showing yourself love. But the things that deepen your relationship with yourself are the actual self-love things. And those things take practice, daily practice. And more than just practice, it takes coming face to face with the things that have been keeping you from loving yourself wholly and completely. Because it's those things that you have to shed in order to actually love yourself unconditionally. That's what Jesus, yoga, and many other religions and loving kindness practices teach us. To let go of the walls, blockages, masks, and come as you are, without judgment, and be loved. Whatever you think you deserve doesn't matter. We all don't deserve love if there are conditions around it. We've all made giant mistakes. When we place conditions around it, it means we shouldn't be loving ourselves. So we have to turn that around and let the conditions go and love ourselves completely. You have to love yourself completely and unconditionally, exactly as you are. Because if you put that "I don't deserve it" on it, that's a condition, my friends. That's a condition. And when you do that, there's no reason you would ever have to actually truly love yourself. Because we are not perfect. We are humans. None of us are perfect. We've all made mistakes. We all put these expectations out there that would maybe look like we have reason to not wholly and completely love ourselves. But unconditional love says otherwise. When you begin to love yourself in this unconditional way, your relationships change, not only with yourself, but also with others. You begin to approach them with a different perspective, and you begin to heal the wounds inside, childhood wounds and wounds that consciously or unconsciously you've created with others over your lifetime. The whole process of self-love actually involves the process that we talk about here on this show a lot, with honoring your energetic rhythms. It involves being intentional, creating a plan to begin to be intentional, which might look like finding someone to help you walk through the process of learning to love yourself. It involves starting to do the work, which quite honestly takes a while. Like I said earlier in the show, it's not just about flipping the switch. It's a process, and you'll have moments of momentum and moments of slow learning and growth, in which you have to do the fourth step of the energetic rhythms process, which is letting go of something before you can once again move into that rest phase, or that intentional phase where you are resting and waiting for something else to appear or come up that you might need to learn to love about yourself unconditionally. And the process or cycle continues on with each feeling or emotion that your clever mind has chosen to push down or neglect to honor in all four phases of its energetic rhythm in your life. Each time we pull one of those expectations of ourselves out of the box it's been in and look at it from all angles, only then can we love ourselves truly, unconditionally. And that takes work, my friends. It takes practice, and it's a painful process. It's also a very joyful process. But it takes time. But it is possible. It is absolutely possible. You see, we're masters at tricking ourselves into thinking that we are mentally and emotionally better than we actually are, until something is revealed to us that needs to be addressed. This is when it's like the universe says, okay, this is up for you. And you know what? For you listening to this show, maybe you're realizing that self-love is up for you. And that's the thing that you have to dive into. Maybe it's something else. But when the universe brings it into your awareness multiple times, it likely means that that's up for you and you need to dig a little bit further. That's just from my experience or what I have learned over the years, I guess. So then the work becomes learning to love and heal and release that part of yourself that is creating the suffering. And by doing so, you cultivate greater health, harmony, and happiness in your life. Because honestly, we can't truly love others to our own full potential until we know and experience that pure, unconditional love of ourselves. Okay, friends, now as I was reflecting on all of this and what just kind of came out of me, I was thinking, what are some of those conditions that we place around loving ourselves or even around loving others? Some of them maybe around ourselves would be, we can't love ourselves completely because we did this, because I made this mistake, because I am this way, or because I was told something over the course of my life that maybe I can't completely love myself. And some of those conditions that we place on loving others, even when we think it's an unconditional love, we might sometimes sneak in those conditions. Remember how I said that our mind is clever and it is sneaky? And some of those conditions that we might seem to place would be maybe things like, when you do the dishes, how or when I want them done, then I will love you completely, or then I will be kind to you. Or maybe when it's convenient for me to slow down and work on this relationship, then I'll go ahead and do it. Those are conditions. Or maybe you hurt me, so I'm going to withhold love from you until you fix it. If any of those sound familiar, it might be time to consider unconditional love and what that looks like in your life. Those are all placing conditions around how we love someone. And it is challenging to unconditionally love someone. And if we haven't been shown that in our lives, and granted, I'm not saying this out of a place that I haven't been shown it, but I'm saying if we haven't fully experienced that in our lives, and quite honestly, I don't know that we fully can experience it until we can love ourselves. I don't know. It is a tricky one, because I do believe that God loves us in that way, unconditionally. I believe that Jesus loves us that way. I think here I'm getting on a little bit of a platform, but I think that God gave us Jesus because he loved us so much. And Jesus says, just come to me and you can be fulfilled. Come to me no matter what you have. Bring your mistakes to me, and I will love you anyway. And if you're not a Christian, that's going to sound a little bit out there maybe, or it might be a little bit uncomfortable even. But that's honestly what it is. And so it's hard for our minds to wrap around that, because we ourselves are human and have faults, and we ourselves don't do that generally for others. So, for what it's worth, unconditional love can indeed be challenging. And I think in some ways we have to learn to love ourselves unconditionally before we can really, truly love others unconditionally as well. Even with your kids. If that's coming up for you and you're saying, yeah, but I love my kids unconditionally. And also, are there times that you withhold love, or that you, like I said with the dishes things, like, I want you to do the dishes now, or this is the time that I want you to clean out the dishwasher, not later. Are there ways that you withhold your love, or that you alter the love that you give them because of their behavior or because of their choices? I don't know. And I don't have all the answers on this. Those are just all things. And also, I am not perfect at any of this by any means. These were just the ramblings and the thoughts that were coming to my brain today. And I wanted to share them with you because it is a day of love, and because we don't remember that we need to love ourselves unconditionally, even when we make mistakes, even with our faults. And so learning to do that is a journey and a process. And I think it's a beautiful one. All right, friends, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope that this is received in your heart and just maybe even gives you something to think about. Until next week, I'm Kathy Stricker, and you've been listening to Health, Harmony, and Happiness with Kathy. Cheers to cultivating your own version of health, harmony, and happiness in your life.